This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Not gonna be Debbie Downer here. Gonna let Paul Washer play that role. This is Wretched Radio. A number of years ago, sitting on a panel discussion at a conference, Paul Washer was asked about the subject of persecution. Please note, this goes back to 2015. It would seem that without being a capital P prophet, Paul's words were pretty prophetic. Why? Not because he hears from God, but because he simply studied history. That's all you need to do. How do people behave when they have a particular ideology? There's nothing new under the sun, and while methodologies might look slightly different, at the core, they're basically the same playbook. Why? Because it comes from the same ideology. And it is not just about economic systems. It is not about moral issues. It is about getting rid of God. That is what is happening in our culture right now. This is not about conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat. This is about God or not. And individuals who do not love the Lord will do anything it takes to suppress any sort of remnant that would cause their consciences to be tweaked. We see this described in Romans chapter 1. Study history, recent history, of even Marxism. Study the French Revolution, and you will see that there are certain patterns that happen. There's a rejection of God, and then what do? Because your worldview and your, perhaps, power are built on lies, you need to silence the truth. They suppress the truth and unrighteousness, not just in their consciences, but in their cultures. Because if you are a truth speaker, that's very dangerous. Truth is light, lies darkness. When you shine the light into darkness, the darkness doesn't like it. So what do? You snuff out the light in whatever form necessary. And we have seen that over and over again in any single country that becomes Marxist or socialist. Paul Washer, talking about the subject a number of years ago, is simply being an historian.
The church in America is going to suffer so terribly. And we laugh now, but they will come after us. They will come after our children. They will close the net around us while we are playing soccer mom and soccer dad, while we are arguing over so many little things and mesmerized by so many trinkets. The net even now is closing around you and your children and your grandchildren, and it does not cause you to fear. You will be isolated from society, as has already happened.
You're a Christian nationalist.
Anyone who tries to run for office who actually believes the Bible will be considered a lunatic.
Happening right now, isn't it? Page anybody who identifies as an evangelical.
Until finally we are silenced. We will be called things that we're not and persecuted not for being followers of Christ, but for being radical fundamentalists who do not know the true way of Christ, which of course is love and tolerance. You'll go down as the greatest bigots and haters of mankind in history.
You would think that he delivered those remarks yesterday. Nope, 2015. At least that's when I have this clip. It could have been earlier, frankly. Why? Because Paul Washer has traveled the globe. And he has been to Soviet satellites. He has been to socialist countries, former Marxist nations, and he knows the playbook. And it's what's happening right now, which means, Christian, we need to, if we have not yet, we need to figure this out. Not necessarily everything that the world is doing or trying to do in our culture, but how we're to be living. What are we to be doing? What is our assignment while we're here? And as I read through the New Testament, and I would challenge you to do likewise, we see our marching orders. Basically, carry on with church things, with evangelism things, with prayer things. Those are the things that we are to be about. Written in a first century context where Christians were not considered citizens of the century. They were considered outcasts. They were a threat to the state because Wait a second. They claim that Jesus Christ alone is Lord? No, that's not the way it works in the Roman Empire. Caesar is Lord. You eat flesh and blood, cannibals. You're not for abortion. You won't send your kids to public schools. They were hated. And we are finding ourselves increasingly walking in first century sandals. And the book that was written, that we call our holy book, was written in that context. And it repeatedly, it just keeps telling us, carry on. Just keep carrying on. Don't be trying to be as consumed with changing culture. Carry on. Evil men and impostors will proceed from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. You, however, continue in the things you have learned and become convinced that you become convinced of. 2 Timothy 3. Carry on. Be about the business of your master, who, by the way, if anybody was persecuted, it was Jesus.
They've already come after your children, and for most of you, they got them. They got them through the public schools and indoctrination, and the university and indoctrination, and then you wonder why your children come out not serving the Lord. It's because you fed them right into the devil's mouth. So little by little, the net is closing around, and then it's not little by little. Look how fast things are going downhill just in a matter of weeks. Matter of weeks. But at the same time, know this. Persecution is always meant for evil, but God always means it for good. And is it not better to suffer in this life, to have an extra weight of glory in heaven?
Indeed. If, of course, we are focused on eternal things. Today is today. Tomorrow's going to look a little different compared to yesterday. And we don't want to be alarmists. We don't want to be walking around in trepidation, but we don't want to be dumb. We don't want to be naive. We want to be aware. If you are now being labeled a Christian nationalist, it doesn't matter what the definition is. It is a bad thing. If you like to put your hand on your heart during the national anthem, if you like to stand up as the flag goes by, if you like to teach anything about anything good that happened from the founding fathers, you're a Christian nationalist. And they're terrible, and they're bad, and they're a danger. Why? Because they're a threat to the state. More specifically, they're a threat to godlessness.
You must settle this in your mind. This is the one thing I want to say over and over. Do not believe. Down through history, you have a wrong idea of martyrdom and persecution. You think that these men were persecuted and martyred for their sincere faith in Jesus Christ. That was the real reason, but no one heard that publicly. They were martyred, and they were persecuted as enemies of the state, as child molesters, as bigots, as narrow-minded, stupid people who had fallen for a ruse and can contribute nothing to society. Your suffering will not be noble. So your mind must be filled with the Word of God when all people persecute you and turn on you. And the Spirit of God in common grace pulls back, and you see even your children and your grandchildren tossing in the lot that you should die.
Are we ready? Should be. Should be. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but it does not appear that the affections of the world are growing warmer toward Christianity. Not when I hear monologues from Bill Maher, who, by the way, is not a wacko liberal. He's not. I know. You're like, wait a second. When did Bill Maher become more commonsensical? Well, like a blind knife that finds a squirrel in the drawer twice a day, he does, compared to people who are way left. And yet Bill Maher is calling you a Christian nationalist, saying you're delusional and you are dangerous. There's nothing new under the sun.
This is no game. You want revival and awakening, but know this. For the most part, great awakenings have come only preceding great national catastrophes or the persecution of the church. I believe God is bringing a great awakening, but I believe that He is raising up young men who are strong in trust in the providence of God to be able to wade through the hell that's going to break loose on us. And it will be on us before we even recognize it. Unless in God's providence, He is not done. He is not done. Now note, this is not silly talk. Apart from a great awakening, these things are going to come upon you. Be ready to lose your homes, your cars, and everything.
Are you ready? Should be. Even if we don't, should be. Right now, we can adjust. You can, I can. My adjustment's different than yours. Are we training up our children to love Jesus and fear the Lord simultaneously, to stand alone on the Word of God, and to be prepared for what could be coming persecution? Am I ready? I'm not talking about buying potable water. I'm talking about our souls. I'm talking about our activities. Are we about the business of our Master? If not, might suggest to you, now is the time. This is Wretched Radio.
Do 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 do. Thank you for calling technical support. This is Todd Friel, the wretch the song refers to. Could I possibly put you on hold for a moment?
Todd, we have talked about this. You cannot answer the phone this way.
Righto. Thank you for calling technical support. This is Todd Friel, the wretch the song refers to.